hadn't checked my Goodreads account in eons, folks. I just randomly went to Goodreads one day and said, I wonder if anybody's read any of my books recently. And sure enough, there was a review of Christmas and Chill from a woman who said, yes, more STEM-focused men who will put you through a mattress. This book came out before the pandemic. Here we are, summer 2026, and this reviewer has taken a liking to Christmas and Chill. And that, to me, is just probably one of the greatest honors I can have as a writer, that my work that is now nearly a decade in the tooth is still finding an audience. Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to a brand new edition of the Chris 2 Cents podcast, where a writer, myself, Chris Steve, is going to talk about his 2 cents with common sense. Hopefully you all are doing well out there. And today is a very special day, Wednesday, August 5th, 2026. Well, it was August. When was August 5th in 2014? It was one day during the week. I know that much. But 12 years ago today, I published my creative works for the very first time, self-published on Amazon. So it's this little puppy right here that I enjoyed very much. It's called I'm Feeling That, Stories of Love, Life, and Lessons Learned. And this book, while granted, it had its own set of challenges because of where I was in my life at that particular point in time writing this, but it still is the first. And you never forget your first, whatever it is. So the quick story behind I'm Feeling That, just real quick before we get into the rest of the show, is I got fired from a public information job in, I'm trying to remember, was it May? I think it might have been, probably was a little like in May of 2014 that this public information job that I had told me that they were not going to renew my contract after bringing me on in November of 2013. There's a whole story behind that, which I'm going to tell in an entirely different episode. But it was a lot going on at that time. I was living with family at that time. We were on the verge of being homeless. There was so much going on at that particular point in time. And for some strange reason, I said, F it. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a novel. I'm going to do something. Because, I need something to bide my time since I'm going to be home as much as I can be for the summer until we can figure out where we're going to be from this point forward. And I literally wrote every day in the month of July, like literally every day, something. I had taken my laptop with me to the Woodlawn Library branch in Wilmington, Delaware, which is still one of my favorite places to go write when I need to go, just be away from the noise of my own house or my own neighborhood, just go to Woodlawn and write. And I did that for 31 days straight. And I had already figured out by middle of July what the title was going to be. And I just had to pick from probably like 15, 20 different, probably closer to 30 different stories. And I think 10 or 12, 12 or 14 actually made it in the book. I have not read I'm Feeling That in years. I probably need to go back and read it. But I self-published on Amazon. There's a Kindle copy and there is a paperback. And that was the first time I had ever written something, creatively for public consumption. Because I had done like little different blog posts before, with my creative stories, back in the Live Journal days. If you remember Live Journal, you remember that was a place where people used to get weird. And that was definitely a place to just drop some, some creative work when nobody was paying attention. And it literally just the encouragement I got from family, from friends. And, I eventually found a community of writers who enjoyed my work. So I was like, all right, I can keep doing this. So in between every job I've had since 2014, and I've had a couple, I've been a freelance sports reporter, which I still am. I have had a regular sports writing job. I have worked at a public library. It wasn't Woodlawn, it was Claymont. And in this new job that I'm going to start next week, I'll talk more about that a little later on in the show. And I've just been working on my creative chops and have had a wonderful time doing it. I think the biggest thing for me in the 12 years since I started self-publishing is just get out of your own way. Get out of your own way. I say this all the time. When The Undertaker was Big Evil back in the SmackDown days of like 2003, he said, there's too much talking and not enough fighting. So he said, it's just time to shut up and fight. So I thought about how I would just, talk myself out of writing different things that I thought, were good ideas at first, but then I just lost patience with them. I lost confidence in them. And then sometimes it was just like, man, shut up and write. And for me, that works. For different people, for other people, it might be differently. You might need to sort through your emotions and sort through your feelings. I probably need to do that a little more. But to this day, I've written 13 different works of art. Well, 12 actually. 12? No, 13. 13. 12 are on Amazon. One is on PayHip. And I think that's going to be the big thing here is that I'm moving a lot of my work first. Well, from here on out, because I can't move my stuff from Amazon because that stuff is already, copyrights locked in and all of that. And I don't feel like fighting with Amazon about, my back catalog. But I think from here on out, I'm definitely going to be pushing my stuff more towards PayHip and Drafted Digital because number one, I got way more royalties and from of the sales, the bulk of the sales from PayHip for A Widower's Gift than I ever got for any other book that I ever wrote on Amazon. So PayHip is probably going to be the way for me forward, definitely, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt. And just being able to share these different characters that I've been able to bring to life, like Miracles Need Wings to Fly is probably still my favorite book that I've ever written, about a family drama around the holiday season, how Black people deal through grief and family drama. One sibling is trans. That was a point of consternation for the parents, and the eldest child is the one who leads the rebellion right around Thanksgiving and Christmas. So very interesting time for everybody to sort of go crazy, during the holiday season. That's still probably my favorite. I mean, my romances are still my favorite. Because when I started meeting people, in the romance space like Eliza David. Oh my gosh, she's got a new book coming out. Cougarette Goes West is coming. So excited for Eliza to be back writing with us. Tasha Harrison, DL White, Nicole Falls, Jason Graham. These folks that I met through social media and reading their work and different things, and it's like, damn, like there's a market for Black romance. And as a man, you really get the side eye if you're writing romance. So I try to be real mindful of that whenever I put pen to paper or fingers to keys and about writing men and women falling in love, and or at least getting close to that point. So it's just been, I mean, the 13 books that I've put out, I can't argue with any of them because they're my work. And I literally have enjoyed, getting feedback from people that I know, people that I don't know. Like there was an amazing review for Christmas and Chill from a woman who, I guess reviews books on a regular. I mean, I hadn't checked my Goodreads account in eons, folks. I just randomly went to Goodreads one day and said, I wonder if anybody's read any of my books recently. And sure enough, there was a review of Christmas and Chill from a woman who said, yes, more STEM focused men who will put you through a mattress. That's how she described uh damn, how did I forget my main character's name for Christmas and Chill already? Doug. Yeah, it was Doug. So if you're not familiar with Christmas and Chill is about Doug and Nixie. Doug is a IT professional who is building his own electric car with his mechanic mentor, and he's also judge of a middle school science fair. And this one kid has this wonderful idea that he ends up winning the contest, and his aunt shows up, to be the support for her godson. And they start talking, they start kicking it, things start to happen around Christmas time, and that's why it's called Christmas and Chill. And the fact that someone actually read this recently, because that book came out in what, I want to say 20, was it 2019, 2020? I know it was before the pandemic. I know that much. It absolutely was before the pandemic. So this book came out before the pandemic. Here we are, summer 2026, and this reviewer has taken a liking to Christmas and Chill. And that to me is just probably one of the greatest honors I can have as a writer, that my work that is now nearly a decade in the tooth is still finding an audience. So that just sort of motivates me to keep the party going. And that's what I plan to do with this new work I'm working on. I don't have a title yet, but I have laid this thing out. We talk about this all the time. There's a difference. There are people who write books, there are plotters, and there are pantsers. Your boy's a pantser. I literally just start writing stuff, and if it makes sense, it makes sense, and if it doesn't, I'll go back and fix it. But plotters are people who usually use every available tool in terms of an outline, character profiles, different things of that nature. This is the first book that I have plotted shoot, probably since A Widower's Gift. So yeah. So so this is an HBCU homecoming romance. Let me be clear. This is an HBCU homecoming romance. Trent is the main character. He has worked in sports radio for 20 years. He is going back to homecoming to also be a part of the school's communications week because he is one of their most famous alums, even though he doesn't have the fondest of memories of his time at this HBCU. But his best friend is the athletic director, kind of twisted his arm to bring him back. And he's going to catch up with a friend that he lost contact with after graduation. And they are going to, during this homecoming week, reconnect. So very excited to bring that to you. Hopefully I'll have it done by September 25th, which is my birthday. Am I thinking about putting a book out on my birthday? Probably, yeah. If I get everything done in short order, yes, it'll be on PayHip. It'll be on Drafted Digital for you folks who want to have a physical copy of the book in your hands. So, yeah. So 12 years later, I never thought that I would be able to dip into this part of my writing, talent and skill and hustle the way I have. I mean, I literally put out a book a year. There have been some times where I've been, two, three books a year, and there have been times when, well, I've just been going a year or two without a book, but it all catches up over time. And I still think that there's a market for people out there who like to read fiction. It's just not as expansive as it once was because the anti-intellectualism movement of today has really taken away from people who read and write for fun. But we can still circle back on that and kind of cater to the people who still like to read for fun. And that's what I plan to do, at least in the interim. So yeah, 12 years of writing fiction. I've written coming of age stories. I've told you about the family drama, a lot of romance, a couple of erotica pieces, like all of this stuff. Like I'm going to put this up on the screen because I care about you guys greatly. This is what's on my Amazon. This is the first 5 on my Amazon author page. You can go to amazon.com/author for authors or author. I can't remember which. And Chris Stevens writes. So you've got Extra Extra. That was the first romance I'd ever written. Miracles Need Wings to Fly, which was my favorite. Party Favors, which was a New Year's Eve hookup that turned into, Happy for Now. Man Child of Summer. That's the coming of age story about a baby boomer, whose dream is to play baseball, and he's spending the summer on his aunt and uncle's farm, and he meets his girlfriend, who's eventually going to become his wife. Loved writing that. Probably should promote that more. And there's Christmas and Chill. So again, you can go to my author page. Just look on Amazon.com, authors, Chris Stevens or Chris Stevens Writes, however you want to put that in, and it'll show up. And then, of course, there is A Widower's Gift. I mean, I just put this out last December, and the feedback I've gotten from that, isn't as much, but the sales are better, which I can't really argue with. I mean, people have bought the book. I just guess it's got to take time for them to read it, or they're working their way through it. But it's not a really long book. But yes, that is on PayHip. And like I said, I will probably be pushing the PayHip part of my writing a little more because that pays better than what Amazon is paying me at this particular point in time. So that's pretty much where we are with the writing aspect of my life. As far as this new job goes, I'm not going to say too much because I start on a Monday, August 10th. You guys will be checking this out August 5th, obviously. So I got a couple of days left to sit at home and just, get used to being back in the office setting and back on a site because that's where I'm going. I'm going back to an on-site job, doing things, with computers and a little bit of a chauffeur work, as it were. And I've not been in an office or an on-site setting since March of 2022. Basically 4.5 years. Every job I had from that point forward, when I got the other PR job, which I'm still waiting to light on fire. God, I can't wait to talk about that. And then, of course, working for HBCU Sports these last handful of years, I haven't had to be in an office. I've been in my apartment this entire time. Well, I was still living, with family in the spring and summer of 2022, but then I moved here in the fall of 2022 on my birthday, as a matter of fact. So September 25th, I will have been here 4 years, and I love this apartment. That's why I'm doing everything I can to keep it, in spite of the challenges that my writing job is facing. So that's why I decided to go back into the workforce like a normal human being. But yes, everything just happened so quickly because, a friend reached out, said, "Do you need some work?" I said, "Yes." He said, "So here's what you need to do." So I did all the steps, and apparently these folks like me enough to say, "Okay, do you want the job?" I'm like, "Yeah. I mean, I need money. Why not?" So starting this new gig on Monday. I've got all. I need to finish up a couple more things in regards to paperwork. I mean, I did my drug screening earlier this week. Tell you how intensive this job is. It's so funny because I haven't had to take a drug screening since I got the job at Claymont Library in the summer of 2017. Damn, I forgot how awkward it is to be walking down the hallway of a building with a cup full of your sample, shall we say. And I'll never forget Richard Pryor's Wanted Live in Concert is one of my favorite comedy albums ever. It's one of my favorite albums ever. And Richard Pryor was talking about the time he had a heart attack and he had to be in the hospital for a while and they wanted a urine sample from him. And the doctor was like, boom, fill that up. And then, he had to have this long conversation with his anatomy to get him to go. And then he said, people would just be so nonchalant with your piss in the hospital. Like, this your piss? Thank you. That's pretty much how it was when I did this drug screening earlier this week. The dude was like, okay, you got a lot here. And I'm like, well, I drank some water before I came here, so I had to make sure I had to go. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to worry about because the strongest vices I have are bread and sugar. That's it. That's the only thing that is keeping me from being completely in. Boy, if I could cut bread and sugar out or at least cut it down to a reasonable level, I'd be dangerous. I'm still happy that I'm finally below 265 pounds. Again, I have not seen this level of lightness of not as heaviness, shall we say, since 2024. I've been teetering along 275, 280, 290 these last couple years, and I have not been happy about it. But the only thing that has changed is that I actually started running 3 miles again. I would literally cut my mileage off at 2 and then realize, okay, something had to change. So beginning of 2026, I said, you know what? We just gonna have to really wean ourselves back on the 5Ks. If we got to take breaks in between, a couple of, a quarter mile here and there, 50 or a half mile here and there, 3/4 of a mile here and there, take a breather, so be it. But we're gonna get back to these 3.11s. And that's what I've done. So far this year, I have lost 25, going on 30 pounds. So life is good. It's not good. I mean, I'm still going to be playing catch up financially for the rest of 2026. But at least I know that I'm going to have some money coming in, and it's still going to be a day job. It is Monday through Friday because this is a job where the office is literally closed up tight at 5 p.m. on a Friday. So, I mean, I can't complain. I can still have the weekend to write. I can still do these podcasts that I love to do. I got no complaints, man. I mean, yeah, I'm still very angry about what has happened, with respect to not being paid for what I've done for, you know, my writing job, but it'll work itself out because I have no choice but to make it work itself out. That's just how things are going to be. That's the real interesting thing about this job. I'm going to be back around people again for 5 days a week. So that means I got to talk, especially in this position, because I'll be asking for information to log data and all of that stuff. So I mean, it's not a hard job, but it's going to take some getting used to after being you know away from a on-site setting for 4.5 years. But we're gonna make it work. I'm absolutely gonna make it work because I want to. I mean, because this ain't a bad job either. So I'm just put my nose to the grindstone, do the work, come home, relax, still find a way to walk and run. Probably have to get up earlier these days to walk or to run, and then probably just start going to the back to my Planet Fitness once it gets cold outside because I'm not running at 5 o'clock in October, November when it's still dark outside and it's going to be like 37 degrees. Ain't no way. So that's pretty much it. It's just going to take some getting used to, getting back to routine, and still finishing this book. That's going to be the challenge. Can I start this new job, come home, still be in the mood to write and edit and come up with a title and find some cover art and get this thing formatted for draft to digital so I can actually get people to buy print copies because because all of my books in recent years have all been digital, like ebooks and PDFs. And people are like, why don't you print? And I'm like, I don't feel like logging this I mean, I think that's probably my biggest challenge where I don't have more books in people's hands is that I just am too damn lazy to format for print. But we're gonna figure it out because I feel like this new book is gonna be fine. I think this book is going to be something that people enjoy, especially Black college grads, especially once we get closer to homecoming season. And I think I'm going to find a way to get Widower's Gift in print. So that can be like my Christmas surprise. Like, well, it won't be a surprise because y'all are hearing about it. Oh, a Widower's Gift is going to be in print. So if you missed it, the digital release in December 2025, I'll probably end up releasing it as a print book once I learn my way around drafted digital on right after Thanksgiving this year. So yeah, I did not plan to talk for 20 plus minutes, but that's what a podcast is. I mean, it's always good to have short little episodes, but I feel like you guys were owed a really, really in detailed episode after my quick, little come back to Jesus with this a couple weeks ago. So yes, everything that you heard here, I'm starting a new job. I'm still working on my weight. I'm working on a new book. I got a lot going on, but this channel is going to be me coming back to talk about writing and different parts of the world, different things and all of that stuff. So if you're new, welcome back. Welcome. But if you're a long time subscriber, welcome back. We're gonna get back to business around here. So that's gonna do it for this edition of Chris Two Cents. Greatly appreciate you, wonderful people, for tuning in. Contact information for me, my books, and all that stuff will be in the description below. Don't forget to like and comment on these videos because, well, that's what gets people's eyes and ears on this thing. And of course, I do respond back for the most part. So if you got a question, you got a comment, I'll probably respond to you. That's usually how it works. So thank you guys for tuning in to Chris Two Cents. Till the next time we speak, y'all take care of yourselves. No, wait. How do I close this out? Y'all be good or be good at it. That's how we close it out. All right, we going now. Peace.